Due to having only one student in my class last year, I was able to streamline my teaching style and have a more focused, intensive training with him, Aizawa elaborated. That paired with the students' above-average learning capabilities, and well. He shrugged as he casually stated, I kind of ran out of things to teach him. Silence. Then, a confused, you mean you finished the first-year curriculum with him? Aizawa blinked. No. I mean he finished all of the UA Heroics curriculum. Or, what do you get when you mix a Zuku Midoriya, one for all, and a year of intensive one-on-one lessons with Aizawa and All Might? One ridiculously overpowered child with a savior complex and anxiety. Class had only just started, and Uraraka tensed as the numb feeling of dread washed over her. The man standing before them, their teacher, had this look of utter apathy on his face as he stood behind his desk, slipping off his garish yellow monstrosity of a sleeping bag. No one dared to make a sound as he spoke, his voice as bland as the expression on his face. My name is Shoyuta Aizawa, and I will be your homeroom teacher for the year. The dread rocketed up her tension, and she knew others in the room were feeling the same. At least, the ones who recognized the name from the whispers traveling around the school as they arrived this morning. Their homeroom teacher had a reputation. And judging by the knowing glint in his eyes as he recognized the clear tension in the room, he was very well aware of it. Good to see that some of you already know what to expect from me. That means I don't have to sugarcoat this, he drawled, looking more amused the more people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. To confirm some of rumors you undoubtedly heard, yes, I do have a reputation for expelling students, and I do have the highest expulsion rate of any other teacher at UA. No, I do not have the patience to deal with any students I determine to have zero potential. And yes. An eerie smirk crossed his face, and Uraraka could barely stop herself from leaning back away from the man. I did, in fact, expel a majority of my homeroom class last year. And no, I will not hesitate to do it again if I see fit. The silence finally broke, with gasps of shock and mutters of disbelief scattering around the room as everyone worked themselves up into a panicked frenzy. One boy, one that Uraraka had noticed eyeing the girls a little too closely and had overheard from taller girl with a ponytail had made inappropriate grabs at her before class, suddenly shot up from his seat, standing on his chair as he cried out, "You can't do that. It's not fair dash. Sit down." Silence reigned once again, and she swore their teacher's red eyes were glowing as he spoke. Here at UA, you will find that we do not conform to typical school teaching practices and policies. In my class, I have the leeway to teach as I see fit, and anyone I deem to have zero potential is immediately recommended for expulsion. Why? The question slips out before she can stop it, and she jolts when the teacher's gaze snaps to her. She does not cower though, taking a deep breath as she elaborates. Why would you decide someone has zero potential? He stares at her, seeming to assess her, as if he were deciding whether or not to give her an answer. Then, he bluntly states, because you are training to be heroes. This isn't a career to be taken lightly. Your potential could be the difference between life or death. A pause, letting the words, the meaning sink in. I am here to teach you, not send you to an early grave. I will not accept anything less. And despite the harshness behind his words, Uraraka found the tension in her shoulders finally easing. This was not an act of cruelty on his part. His words, his coldness, his harsh reality were all coming from a place of genuine care. Because they were in heroics. They were all signing on for a dangerous career, a career where one wrong move, the wrong decision, even just being slightly underprepared could lead to their or a citizen's demise. And while she couldn't quite smile, she found herself slowly nodding, a small bit of warmth settling in her heart knowing that no matter what their teacher threw at them, some part of him did truly care for them. Seeming satisfied with her reaction, he turned his attention back to the class as a whole. Now, due to my expulsion rate and the fact that UA curriculum is so flexible, we do have a bit of a conundrum this year. A hand shot up, and after Aizawa nodded his head, Uraraka turned to watch as a familiar classmate shot up from his seat. Stiff as a board and arm chopping through the air in a way that made Uraraka have to hold back giggles, Tenya Ida loudly queried. Sir, does this have anything to do with the empty desk in the back corner of the room? And why only 19 students are present? Sighing heavily, Aizawa dropped into his chair at his own desk. Yes, it does have something to do with the desk, though you all only have 19 because a student was expelled this morning due to improper conduct off school grounds. He said the last bit so casually, not noticing how everyone paled at the fact that the first day had only just begun and someone was already expelled. I know I said that I expelled most of my class last year. Which is true. However, what I neglected to elaborate on was that I expelled all but one student last year. The low murmurs began to rise in the room, and she could have sworn that she saw the loud and explosive blonde kid, the one that had been telling off and even coming close to threatening Ida before class, stiffen in his seat. Due to having only one student in my class last year, I was able to streamline my teaching style and have more focused, intensive training sessions with him, Aizawa elaborated. That paired with the student's above-average learning capabilities, and well. He shrugged as he casually stated, I kind of ran out of things to teach him. Silence. Then, confused, you mean you finished the first-year curriculum with him? Aizawa blinked. No. I mean he finished all of the UA Heroics curriculum. A pause. Oh, and the optional supplementary courses. Then, he added, I got bored and made up some stuff towards the end of the semester too. Okay, Urarika's tension was back with a vengeance. The pink-haired girl off to her right, audibly gulped. Our senpai sounds terrifying. Aizawa shrugged. Sometimes. A voice behind her whispered, he didn't even try to deny it. But yes, it has become an issue for the school, their teacher continued, seeming to either not notice or not care about the rising panic in the class. While he was able to gain his provisional license over the summer, the Hero Commission will not budge on allowing him to get his hero license until he reaches 18 years of age. Which is even worse considering the problem child had already skipped a grade before coming to UA-. He's our age, the invisible girl shrieked as the explosive blonde loudly swore, his hands gripping the edge of his desk tightly as he seemed to realize something. The glowing red-eyed glare was back. Yes. He is. Groaning in exasperation, he rose from his desk. Thankfully, Nedzu had a solution on how to occupy his next few years at UA. Striding towards the door, he yanked it open and ordered out into the hall, problem child, get in here. He was decidedly not what she was expecting. Carrying a well-worn, bright yellow backpack over his shoulder, a hastily and poorly done tie around his neck, and just the slightest bit of a nervous hunch, the boy in question was nothing short of cute. Like, not the overtly attractive sort of cute, but the, I want to put you in my pocket and take you home with me sort of way. She had the overwhelming urge to both protect him and pat the fluffy, dark green curls on his head. And maybe pinch his freckled cheeks while she was at it. The boy did his best to stand tall in front of them, nervously smiling, and she became acutely aware of the scar over his left brow, followed shortly by the more prominent scars along the hands gripping tightly to his bag. Meet Izuku Midoriya, Aizawa introduced as said boy waved nervously at the class. Class 1A's first ever teaching assistant and your senpai. 1 year ago. Aizawa surveyed the classroom with a distasteful eye. Not even 2 seconds in the door, and he already spotted 4 students to expel. Their situation awareness was not only atrocious, but 2 were openly making out in the room, another drawing what looked like quirkish comments on his desk, and lastly, one was openly bragging about how he was a legacy and openly threatening students to do as he says or he would get them blacklisted in the hero industry. There was not enough coffee in the world to make him able to deal with this bullshit. Walking in the room, no one even noticed him. What did he have to do? Roll himself through the door in that yellow eyesore of a sleeping bag that Hazashi gave him as a gag gift? Part of him even considered saying, fuck it, and walking out on them all. But then he noticed a small, hunched figure in the back corner eyeing him curiously. Ah, so maybe not all of them are hopeless. But then he recognized the mop of green curly hair and that hope died. Because he remembered this boy's display during the entrance exam. How he rushed in to save a fellow test-taker and shattered his arm and legs in the process, and nearly died falling to the ground had ectoplasm not been on standby with clones to catch him. He knew this boy very well. And he knew that by the end of the day, he would prove that Midoriya Izuku had no place in heroics. Present time. Midoriya Izuku was, arguably, terrifying. Aizawa had known the boy for the past year now, not only having the privilege of watching him grow in skill at an unprecedented rate but also having the honor of being a large factor behind that tremendous growth. At least, he liked to think that in the privacy of his mind. Whereas Yagi took the role of the boy's mentor, aiding in building up his determination and character, Aizawa was his sensei. The one that both pushed him to his limits and kept the boy in check. The one whose job was to chip away at the old Midoriya while helping him mold his new skin. The one that took the potential in front of him and handed over the tools to make the boy into something greater, something more. And at only 15 years of age, Izuku had crafted himself well enough to be a truly remarkable hero, perhaps the greatest, if Aizawa admitted to himself. Unfortunately, through all those one-on-one lessons, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the breakthroughs and triumphs that they experienced, Aizawa had somehow made one horrific and possibly costly oversight. Izuku was awkward. Okay, if it was that alone, it might not be that bad. His awkwardness could often be written off as, in Nemuri's words, cute. And that boyish, bashful nature of his could work great in the hero industry. But Midoriya had underlying issues that made things more complicated. Case in point. The boy in question stood tense, back straight as an arrow, as waves of what Aizawa knew to be palpable fear rolled off of him as the boy was bombarded with a verifiable storm of voices and questions. While the past year had garnered an easy rapport between he and his prized problem child, though that had been a hard-fought battle, one harder still in those early months where Yagi had stupidly hidden the true nature of Izuku's quirk, Izuku had spent the last year with very minimal contact with other students. While most students spent their years learning teamwork and camaraderie amongst their class, they had, accidentally, spent the year training Izuku into essentially being a one-man army. Not that the boy was incapable of working with others. No, Izuku was a strategist at heart, a leader of the people who carried an air about him that made people listen and want to follow him into whatever convoluted scheme that he crafted. However, the boy was completely blind to his effect on people, forcing himself to melt into the background as to avoid drawing another's ire. He pretended to be okay, but clearly his years of being quirkless affected him more harshly than he would admit. The solution? Trial by fire. Midoriya Senpai, did you really finish all the hero course classes in a year? What type of quirk do you have? I bet it's super powerful, dude. Did you finish all 3 years of the academic classes as well as the heroics coursework? Are you going to be working with just us or the other heroics class too? Oh. Guys, look how red his face is. Oh my god, he's so adorable. Okay, enough torturing the kid. Slamming a hand down on his desk, his eyes flared red from his quirk, and the entire class gaze whipped towards him and off of his problem child, who looked like a deer caught in a pair of headlights. Most had jumped at the loud sound, though his kid just slumped a bit, relaxing at not being the center of attention for the moment. Clearing his throat, he conjured up the most unenthused voice he could muster as he dug a stack of gym clothes out of his sleeping bag and tossed them on his desk. Quit harassing the problem child and change into these. We're doing a quirk assessment test. But sir, one of the boys, Ida he thinks, interjected. What about the opening ceremony? Like I said before, this class is structured as I see fit, Aizawa droned out. If you care more about ceremonies, then leave now. Otherwise, head to the changing rooms and meet me outside, quickly. Midoriya will show you where to go. The boy in question let out a surprised eep sound, but took a calming breath before offering a wobbly smile. Yeah, if everyone could follow me. He moved to the door, but when he saw no one moving, just staring in confusion over everything that was happening, he frowned. Aizawa-sensei expelled 3 of last year's students just for tardiness. Everyone scrambled from their seats and all but shoved Izuku out the door, leaving Aizawa to wonder if it were cruel of him to already be pawning this class off on his obviously uncomfortable assistant. Nah. Izuku was stressed. Not that feeling stressed was an unusual thing for him. No, it was a common day-to-day occurrence for the boy to have some form of tension or minor dread when facing the world. The main issue at hand, however, was just how far out of his metaphorical comfort zone he had been thrown. For a moment, he thought this is how a baby bird must feel being thrown out of a perfectly good nest and be expected to fly. Aizawa had basically shoved him out of the nest, but done so with a pack of hungry wolves circling just below. Okay, so he was being a bit melodramatic, but given his childhood and abandonment issues, he felt this was justified. And to make matters even worse, part of said childhood was stalking along behind him, silently glaring a hole in the back of his head. Joy. A voice just next to him broke him from his thoughts. What are you muttering about? Jolting in place, he felt his face grow red as he turned his attention to the girl smiling serenely next to him. Everyone else had been trailing along behind him, talking in quiet, or, what was supposed to be quiet, whispers. This girl was the first to actually approach him, a cute brown bob haircut and pink-tinged cheeks. Overall, ridiculously cute and far from someone Izuku was used to conversing with. Oh. Well. He let out a nervous laugh as he scratched his head. It's, a bad habit of mine. The muttering. I do it when I'm lost in thought, sorry. You don't have to apologize. I thought it was cute, she chirped, still smiling brightly and having no idea about the inner panic attack Izuku was currently suffering from. My name is Uraraka Ochako. He relaxed a bit, settling at the calm but bright presence the girl exuded. It's good to meet you, Uraraka. Oh, here we are. Everyone halted as he turned, mustering his best smile though it wavered under the attention. Alright, everyone change quickly, and then I will show you to the practice fields. As all the students filed into the changing rooms, he took a calming breath. Everything was fine, things would be okay. He could do this. Today would be just fine. Whoa, dude, are you okay? Never mind, things weren't fine anymore. Trying to keep the grimace off his face was hard under the weight of all the stares. He knew that changing with the rest of the boys would mean letting them see, but he had not expected someone to actually say something out loud. To give the poor blonde kid, he thinks someone called him Kaminari, some credit, he did not seem to really process that he had spoken out loud either until another boy elbowed him in the gut and a boy with bright red hair muttered, not a manly question, dude. Plastering on a weak smile, Izuku played it off as if he wasn't standing shirtless in front of dozen-plus peers with scars littered across his arms and torso. I'm fine, really. My quirk was difficult to master, and well. He gave a helpless shrug. Recovery girl can only heal so much. Apparently, that was the wrong thing to say as several sets of eyes seemed to pop out of some of the boys' heads, someone shouting, that was caused by your own quirk? Izuku visibly shrunk. Well. The boy with bulky tape dispensers in his elbows jumped in. Wait, even the one on your chest? And that's the moment when Izuku visibly shut down. He could feel his face go blank, his back stiffen and go ramrod straight as his nails dug into his palms. The room felt tight, and he could practically feel the dull phantom pulse of the jagged scar spreading out from the center of his chest, the pain, the numbness, the fear. You must be my player too. A locker door slammed shut. Pestering people about their scars is rude. All eyes turned to settle on the speaker in question, who calmly and serenely glanced around at the other occupants with an almost bored expression, though his eyes seemed to glint in challenge. I suggest changing the topic. No one argued with him. The fact that he sported his own scar across his face certainly drove home his authority on the matter. Seeming satisfied with the silence that followed, Midoriya found himself pinned under the boy's gaze which switched from intense to something calmer. He wasn't sure. All he could really think about in that moment was how striking the boy looked, his hair perfectly split along with his heterochromatic eyes. It made him want to ask questions, wondering distantly if his quirk was split just like his physical features, but his throat felt like it was welded shut. The other boy broke the silence, speaking to Midoriya directly. "I will be waiting in the hall for your directions." Izuku could only manage to nod. Soon, Izuku is leading a majority of the class out to the field, a few stragglers hurrying to catch up, only to hear a distinctive yelp from one of the girls. Whipping around, he's about to ask what was wrong when he sees it. The shorter boy, Mineta, grinning lecherously up at one of the girls with his hand on her rear. Midoriya moved before he could think. "What in the hell do you think you're doing?" "Oh my god, he's swearing," someone quietly whispered as everyone watched their supposedly shy cinnamon roll of a senpai turn venom-filled eyes on the tiny pervert. The boy in question shrieked, and Midoriya slowly realized that he had the boy by the back of his shirt held up in the air as he pleaded out excuses. It was nothing. I wasn't hurting her. I was only just dash. Where did you get the idea that touching anyone like that is nothing?" His tone prompted Mineta to burst into tears, but he couldn't be bothered to care. Turning his attention to the girl in question, he softly asked, "Yaoyorozu, right? Are you okay?" Though she clearly looked flustered, the girl nodded quickly. He didn't hurt me. But just... I'm sorry for the trouble." "Do not apologize because he assaulted you," came Midoriya's response, his words kind but offering no room for argument. "He had no right to touch you." "It's not the first time the pervert has tried this," snapped another girl who moved to stand next to Yaoyorozu. She had what looked like earphone jacks hanging from her ears and short, choppy purple hair framing her scowling face. "Plus, he tried to look at us when we were changing through a hole in the wall." "What?" The dark look on his face grew worse, and Mineta's sobbing only intensified. Plastering on a sickeningly sweet smile that made everyone take a healthy step back, Midoriya coolly replied, "Let's hurry to meet up with Aizawa-sensei." As he moved again, still holding Mineta by the collar of his shirt, everyone silently followed after him, exchanging glances that clearly said, "What the fuck?"